When you look at your life, you have to understand one fundamental truth. Everything you experience, everything you create, everything you hold yourself back from, all of it is driven not by your goals, not by your dreams, not by your potential, but by your emotional patterns. Your emotions are the invisible architecture of your destiny. Most people don't realize this. They chase strategies, systems, hacks, shortcuts, looking for the perfect plan when the real battle is happening inside them every single day. And here's the truth. If you don't master your emotional patterns will master you. They will dictate how much you love, how much you give, how much you try, how much you grow, and how much you settle. They create the ceiling of your life, and they create the floor. And the moment you see this, the moment you truly understand it, you begin to reclaim the power you've been giving away for years. Because any emotional story that controls you today is not permanent. It feels permanent only because you've rehearsed it so many times that it became familiar. And the brain loves familiarity more than it loves freedom. But Robert Smith teaches something extraordinary. The ability to collapse emotional patterns, to take that old memory, that old wound, that old belief, and remove the emotional charge that kept it alive. Once the emotion collapses, the story collapses. And once the story collapses, the behavior collapses. You stop reacting to life from the place where you were hurt, and you begin responding from the place where you are powerful. There's nothing mystical about this. It's the science of interrupting an emotional loop that no longer serves you and rewriting it with a meaning that elevates you instead of limiting you. And transformation, real transformation, doesn't start when you change your habits. It doesn't start when you change your environment. It doesn't even start when you change your relationships. It starts when you change your state. Your state is the emotional home you live in, the default setting you return to whether things are going well or going terribly. Some people live in a home of fear. Some live in frustration, some in doubt, some in anger, some in uncertainty, and they keep trying to change their lives while living in the same emotional home that created their problems. It's like trying to build a new future while dragging your old identity behind you. You can't move into a new life if you're emotionally anchored to the old one. The moment you shift your state, truly shift it, everything else becomes possible. Your decisions change. Your standards change. Your behavior changes. Your expectations change. Your courage becomes louder than your fear. Your spirit becomes stronger than your past. And that's when life begins to respond to you on a whole different level. And here's the part most people never hear. Your past does not define you. It never has. But the meaning you gave your past, that defined you. Every painful moment that once made you shrink, every disappointment that made you feel less, every experience that taught you to limit your hope, those moments were never the problem. The meaning you attached to them was the problem. And meaning can be rewritten in an instant. Meaning is not fixed, it's chosen. We think our past writes our identity, but identity is nothing more than the accumulation of meaning. You change the meaning, you change the emotional pattern. You change the emotional pattern. You change the identity. You change the identity, and suddenly the future you once thought was impossible becomes the only future that makes sense. But here's the key. None of this becomes real until you make a decision so powerful, so absolute, that it reshapes who you are. Most people don't decide. They prefer to hope. They prefer to wish. They prefer to wait. They prefer to dabble. A real decision is not made with your mind. It's made with your nervous system. It's made with your soul. It's the kind of decision that eliminates every alternative except forward. It's the kind of decision where you say, I will not live in emotional patterns that shrink me. I will not live in stories that lie to me. I will not live in the identity created by a version of me that was just trying to survive. When you make that decision, your entire physiology changes, your energy changes, your certainty changes. And in that moment, your destiny begins to shift. You have to realize that your identity, the strongest force in the human psyche, is not a fixed reality. It's a habit, a pattern, a story you've told yourself so many times that you forgot it was optional. You are not who you were last year. You are not who you were last month. You are not even who you were this morning. Identity is fluid. Identity is shaped by repetition. And you can break it, rebuild it, reshape it the moment you decide you're no longer willing to tolerate the emotional limits you once accepted as truth. There are people who spend their whole lives trying to fix their circumstances without ever touching the emotional root that created those circumstances. They rearrange the furniture of their problems while leaving the foundation untouched. But the exact moment, you change the emotional pattern, everything else reorders itself naturally. You stop needing validation. You stop chasing certainty. You stop fearing failure because the emotional force that once fed those patterns is gone. You're operating from a higher state, a higher meaning, a higher identity. And the world responds to that version of you. And this is the real beauty of the work you're stepping into. When you collapse old emotional patterns, you don't just heal the past, you reclaim the future. You don't just remove pain, you expand possibility. You don't just rewrite your story, you rewrite the role you play in your own life. Suddenly, you're not the survivor, you're the creator. You're not the one who endured, you're the one who decides. And when you understand that, your life becomes unrecognizable. Everything begins with emotion. Everything changes with state. Everything transforms with meaning. Everything sustains with identity, and everything elevates with one powerful decision. The decision to no longer live as the version of you shaped by old pain, but as the version of you designed for your highest life